Sorry, just Emma came into my room now. She's wagging her tail, and it's
I hear it. Yes,
it's hitting up against my media tower, and you're making noise, pup. I don't know why you laid there instead of on your bed or on mine.
She wants to be close to you. That's nice.
Well,
Pat.
yeah, there's nothing much I can do. Even if I move the stuff off there, your tail is still going to hit the thing. God.
Emma.
All right.
Okay.
I think she's calmed down a little bit.
Okay. Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your omnivore hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Today we indulge in our more primal nature one last time and review the final season of Wolf Boy and His Friends, aka Beastars. And since this is our season finale, we will of course pick our candidates for best anime of the season. But before all of that, there are a couple of leftovers we have to discuss in The Quick and the Dead. So drink your favorite energy drink that turns you into a literal monster, hashtag not an ad, hashtag could be an ad. Make sure that you learn your lesson and bring a gun after you have already been shot by the same person 3 times in a fucking row. And definitely don't pause the pod, we'll be right back. They try to hit you. They try to kick you Yeah, Quick and the Dead time. Not as packed as I planned it to be. I wanted to watch so much and didn't get to any of it. Like Journal with Witch, Tojima Wants to Be a Comrade, Hell's Paradise Season 2, Vigilante Season 2, Medalist Season 2, Darwin Incident, all of that stuff. But I was just too busy, and we already had such a fully stacked review slate that I just wasn't able to get to it. Sorry for that. Next season will be a lot lighter, so maybe I'll get some of the shows.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, for me it is lighter, actually. Well, you got to bring the goods then, John. But yeah,
I got a lot I want to check out for summer, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see how it shakes out. I don't mind being for once the one who is not overzealous when it comes to picking shows. I'll take it. But yeah, if I never get to these shows that I just mentioned again in the near future, I will probably revisit them down the road when they have ended their multi-season run, which kind of makes sense anyway for a lot of these at this point, because depending on how long the breaks between these are, I tend to forget what the previous season was about, even if it was a good season, and have to revisit it. And then if it's like a multi-season show that runs for, I don't know, 7 seasons or something like that, I have to do that several times. So I might just as well wait until they are completely finished and then watch them from beginning to end. Like I'm currently doing with Dr. Stone. I'm waiting for the finale of that to wrap up, and then I'll watch all the rest of it since season 3 began, I think. And then I'll talk about it a bit. But yeah. We'll see. John, what did you bring a couple of things to the Quick and the Dead?
Just a couple. There's Oshi no Ko, which is still ongoing, and things are getting crazy, and Aqua thought he was free of his... He thought he was free from his investigations about... his mother's death. Turns out he couldn't have been more wrong. And a lot of that ends up driving a stake in between himself and Ruby for a large part of this season. But then there's big revelations where they sort of figure out who each other actually are. And now things are weird between them, and
sounds like a lot of drama.
There's a lot going on. There's still the murder mystery there might be incest on the horizon.
Why am I not surprised?
Like, people were talking about this. I was like, guys, what are you talking about? And you get to this point, it's like, oh, Ruby's a Brocon. Ew. Oh, boy.
As it happens.
Spoilers, I guess, but it's hard to bury the lead on this one because it comes really late into this season. But when it kind of hits like a truck all at once, and it's like, oh, Jesus. Oh, no. And I mean, there's a reason for it, and it makes sense in Ruby's head, I guess. But if you take it at face value, it's kind of. But I guess I don't know. I'll see how it plays out because I'm still interested in seeing how parts of the story go. So let's see it. See how it goes. See how it goes. See how it goes. What do you got?
That's all already?
I got one other one.
Okay, all right. Well, I have like a couple of small things. Two of them I watched in the movie theater. The first was Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, Lonely Dragon Wants to Be Loved, which I watched a while ago. I don't even remember when that came into theaters, but I forgot to bring it up. So, yeah. Was nice. I think it's now streaming on Crunchyroll, I believe, right?
It is, yes. It popped up the other day alongside Zombieland Paradise, that movie. So I
need to check that out.
I've got so many movies I need to watch. There's those two now. I still got to watch Sonic 3, both of the Super Mario movies. I have lots of homework to do.
Yes. I mean, some of that more for our podcast and some for you for personal enjoyment.
Yes.
But yeah, the Dragon Maid movie was nice. Like, nothing super special, actually. I kind of expected this one to be much more story-heavy than the series was. And I mean, season 2 of the show went a bit more into the story and the background of the dragons and so on. And I expected, and Toro stuff and so on. And I expected the movie to go even more into that. Instead, it's more of like a character-focused side story that is like about Kana and not much else. I mean, Kobayashi and Toro are there, and there's some shenanigans, them having to go to the dragon world and everything, but it kind of feels like more of a separate thing than, I don't know. It's a background, origin story, whatever for Kana more than anything, and that's nice. And she's a cool character, but I don't know. I just sat there in the theater and waited for something more to happen. Maybe my expectations were a bit skewed, and it felt more like not as substantial as I expected it to be. Because from the trailers, it looked like, oh, this is gonna be a big war is gonna break out, and it's going to be super crazy and action heavy. And yes, a bit is in there, but it's not like... It's just also a lot of meandering. And that I didn't expect from the movie. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a cozy atmosphere, which the show also has, right? But I expected the movie to be just a bit more plot heavy than it was. The character stuff with Kana and her dad and everything is nice. And I liked that. And I liked the ideas what went around. The villain is kind of weak. The concept is kind of interesting, but they don't really do anything with it. So it's okay. It was an okay movie. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything super special. Might also been, I don't know, marred by me having, of course, watching it in a German version in the theater and having German subs. And it reminded me why I don't like to watch German subs.
Uh-oh.
Because they were so fucking inconsistent. They were switching between formal and informal, which, you know, we have over here. We have Z and Du, so, you know, a more formal, addressing people a bit more formally if you don't know them, but addressing them if they are friends or people you're acquainted with and so on.
Kind of like tú versus usted in Spanish sort of thing. I
guess. And in Japan, of course, they have even a bigger like variety of that and version of that. An insane amount of different ways how you address people depending on their like social standing or their standing towards you and your familiarity with them and how they're ranked. and stuff like that. And we don't really have that. We have like two things, like two levels. And even that the subs got wrong. Like they used formal language when it made no sense in terms of character relationship. And even if it does, because the Japanese language is more formal, nobody talks like that in German. So it sounds weird as fuck. Like, I think I had several situations where Toru was just addressing Kobayashi formally. Like, yes, I think maybe even all the time. It sometimes switched back and forth, I think. It was very inconsistent. And that makes no sense in regards to their character relationship. Yes, she probably addresses Kobayashi more formally in Japanese with a sen at the end or whatever. And, you know, it makes more sense because she's her maid and everything, and she wants to be respectful towards her. But that doesn't mean that you use the very formal version of German language or addressing her formally in German makes any sense. Because you do that to people who you, I don't know, are not super familiar with, that assist you in any way, or that you work with but you're not super familiar with, and stuff like that. Otherwise, you don't use that. And all the people in this show, Kobayashi has known for a while, and she's on very friendly terms with them. She goes drinking with her colleagues, all the people that live in her house. She would address none of them with a more formal level, and they did that in the subs a lot. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? What are you doing? Translator, you shit the bed. And, you know,
That's unfortunate.
When it comes to movies, translation is not only about accuracy, but also about language feel of the language that is being translated to. And the translator just apparently was, it must to be, I must to adhere to Japanese script, and when it's formal there, it needs to be formal here, and it doesn't make any sense. And then you had idioms that nobody uses in daily language, just some really weird choices, and that took me out of the movie more than once. I was like, what are you doing here? So yeah, that was really weird. The flip side of that, where everything, the translator did a great job and the movie was fantastic, is the other one I watched in theaters, and there's this that was Chainsaw Man Reze arc. Continuation of Chainsaw Man, which first was a show and then had a movie continuation. And I don't know, they have announced the next arc. I don't know if it's going to be another season of TV or if it's going to be another movie. Not sure. It looks like TV, so we'll see. But I watched this movie in IMAX. It was goddamn crazy. It was a blast. An absolute visual feast, just like the recent Demon Slayer movie, though a completely different visual style, more chaotic, more dirty and grimy. I loved it, just like the show. The story between Denji and Reze is also pretty cool and has a real gut punch of an ending. The action blowout at the end of the movie is absolutely insane. So wild and creative and awesome. Just a joy for someone who loves crazy action animation, which I do. And not only, but also because it features Denji teaming up with Beam, Shark Demon Boy, and those two do some of the funniest, dumbest, and visually stunning shit when fighting the big bad. It's fantastic. I know people are a bit down on Chainsaw Man right now because the ending apparently didn't live up to expectations. Happens more often than you think! But for now, I'd still recommend everyone watch the show, and especially the movie, because just from the production values perspective, this is an absolute treat. Like, Mappa on a movie budget is a sight to behold. They already look fantastic in their TV shows, which we saw this season with Jujutsu Kaisen. But goddamn, that was just an entire movie of that shit. And yeah, looking forward to the next season or movie or whatever it's gonna be. And yeah, if I'm pissed because of the ending as well, we'll see. That I got only myself to blame because I kept on watching, but that the first season and that movie were so goddamn enjoyable. I can't help myself. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, great movie. John, you got something else you said.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on real quick that I finished watching Princession Orchestra.
Ah, yes, the not a Symphogear.
It definitely leans a bit more Pretty Cure than Symphogear, but they kind of lean into the older audience and say, hey, do you see this thing? Do you recognize it? Yeah, we know you know what this is. So there's plenty of nods in there to, hey, this thing is from Symphogear. Like I showed you screen caps of the girls go on a shopping trip, and the names are like characters from Symphogear. Was it G? I think it was it San Germain Prelati and what was the other character's name? I can't remember. But regardless, they have those sprinkled all throughout in there. Nana Mizuki's in there, and she plays one of the villains. It's probably some of the better effort I've seen Silverlink put in for animation production over the past few years for a kids show too, honestly. So, it's pretty basic. A lot of it is Monster of the Week, but then the girls end up going up against the Red Queen at one point, and then there's the White Queen later on, and then one of their friends, someone who they thought was a friend, tries to take on both of their powers to play the villain to try and save Alice Pia, the world that all of these other creatures live in, and it's like this magical, mystical place and all of that. And, again, it's pretty basic for what it is, but it was fun enough to carry me through to the end. Had banger music all throughout, produced by what were the Elements Garden? What's his name? I can't think of his name, but one of the guys who worked on Symphogear. God, why I'm losing my mind today, folks. Noriyasu Agematsu. And I think Akifumi Kaneko had a small hand in Princession Orchestra as well. It's a little less heavy-handed on some of the Wild Arms references that got thrown into Symphogear. But, this is still a fun, breezy watch. I don't think it's essential by any means, but if you want something that you can look at and you can watch and every so often look at and point and say, I know that thing, that it is what it is. It was well produced. It had good music, good action, interesting characters as it went along. Like they are not just one-dimensional flat characters like you might expect. They have, their own things going on. There's a couple of girls that they meet later on that, like, they end up fighting, but then they're like, hey, you don't need to be enemies. We could be friends. And they're like, but we did all sorts of horrible things to you. And there's a lot of coming to understandings there, making new friendships and like that. So, it was neat for what it was. If you want something breezy, it's 40 something episodes. So it's not like a short watch, but it's an easy watch and it's worth glancing at, I think, just for the heck of it.
Sounds like a fun time.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Cool. I have one last thing, and that is the episode more of My Hero Academia, which is like this extended epilogue to the show. Like we see a bit more of the lives of our grown-up heroes. Like we have a cute scene of Ochako and Lemillion tutoring kids with quirks. Everyone coming together, celebrating Shoto placing second in the hero ranking. We get to see some of them in action again for the final time, even though it's just to catch some car thieves. We hear the riveting Yuki Hayashi score for the final time. And of course, Ochaku and Deku finally end up as a couple, which was a long time coming.
Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah. All framed by Ochako overcoming her regrets of Toga sacrificing herself to help her survive in the final battle, which was kind of nice and gave it a bit more, I don't know, weight than if it was just about, hey, our main girl and the main guy have to finally like hold hands or whatever. Which they do in this kind of bro-y way, which is a bit weird, like they're high-fiving or something. It's like, but it's more like this partner handshake, instead of just, hey, they're definitely gonna end up like married and having kids or whatever. So, but it's obvious that it's that, and it's a really nice bookend to the show. I was already happy with the series finale we got before, but this extended epilogue episode was really the comfy cherry on top. I needed to make it perfect.
That's cool.
I even teared up a bit when they play some old clips at the end. And yeah, it was a long and sometimes shaky road, but I'm super happy with how this show wrapped up. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting it all on Blu-ray if possible and revisiting it in a couple of years. So that was the final chapter of that. I mean, we might see some of the characters in Vigilantes again, but, you know, that is set before the main show anyway. So that doesn't really count, I guess. But yeah, I'm happy. I mean, we might get a movie down the road still for this. Who knows? And I'm really excited to see what Horikoshi is gonna do next. I didn't even look up if he is already working on a new series or whatever. I must assume he is. So yeah, I'm super happy with now My Hero Academia proper being completely wrapped up, and yeah. Can, even with some shaky seasons in the middle there, can willfully recommend it. Definitely one of my favorite shows in recent years. John, do you have anything else for The Quick and the Dead?
Nope, that's pretty much everything for me.
All right, then we're going to move into our final review of this season and that series' final season.
All right, so the final season of Beastars, I feel like it was a lot to take in, man.
Yeah.
Trying to think how exactly to start this. So,
I mean, you can start with what is happening.
Legoshi has he's dropped out of school because he's all sorts of, we talked about everything that happened with the first couple of seasons. I
mean, the last thing that happened was he finally discovered who the killer was, Reze the bear. And, you know, that was what at least occupied most of the first two seasons in the background, right? The mystery that they set up. Okay, who is actually killing people in school? And, you know, is it a member of a drama club? Whatever, no? And yeah, it was partially about that, but also it was, of course, about the character relations developing mostly between Legoshi, Haru, his love interest, the bunny girl, and Louis, the deer, the prospect Beastar, and golden boy of the school, and so on, who then gets basically drifts off his given path in life and ends up with the lion yakuza, with the shishigumi in the black market and so on, but manages to carve out his own way in a regard, forms a very strong relationship with kind of a mentor character in Ibuki, and that comes to a kind of heart-wrenching close and everything, and has a, I guess, lasting effect on this season as well. And then it all culminated in Legoshi fighting Reze and Louis offering up one of his legs for Legoshi to devour, gaining strength from that, because carnivores, of course, gain strength when they eat meat, and being able to beat Reze. So kind of a happy end, I guess, but the fallout from that is, of course, now Legoshi devoured the meat of a live herbivore. And yeah, so he is, I guess, he drops out of school because of that. And yeah,
and Cherryton puts in like a very strict segregation policy. He drops out. He moves into this like little shithouse apartment, basically. We're sort of briefly introduced at first to a horse named Yahya, and he is a current Beastar, and he seems to sort of have a pretty good, as we find out, like this is a little further on, but he seems to have a like strong knowledge of like everything that's going on. Yeah,
he set up atop the police station, apparently, who I guess, work with him, or he works with them, or it is at least partially supported by them. I don't know if this series makes absolutely super clear how it works, because this is also kind of a secret that he's there, that he's set up there. He's kind of a vigilante character, right? He's kind of a Batman situation, but somewhat sanctioned by police and society, I guess.
Yeah, his role is weird. I mean, he's an interesting character, though, because it's not really clear what side he's playing. Mm-hmm. And he kind of keeps that veil up for a very long time throughout this part of the series, throughout these, pretty much these entire 24 episodes.
I mean, some multiple characters do this, right? We have a lot of question mark people in this season. Yahya is one of them. The big villain of this season, of this two-core season, of course. Then I guess Louis' father. We're not super clear what his real motives are. You know, our preconceived notions lead us to believe one thing, but it's not only that, I guess. It's definitely that, like him trying to make Louis his legacy, like he's always tried, like making him the next part or the next chairman of the big conglomerate he's working for Horns, but under his conditions, like him being the controlling factor still, even after he has, like, I don't know, removed himself from the post or whatever. So he's a very controlling shitbag, but also there's a bit more in that later then gets revealed pretty much in the, I don't know, last couple of episodes. And it's supposed to kind of redeem him a bit, I guess. It didn't work for me, but I don't know about you, but
I mean, I guess it worked a little bit, maybe not fully, but there's other things about this season.
Oh yeah, we'll get to those. So we have that, and Yahya is set up at the very beginning, I guess. We don't see his face yet. We learn later he's like a horse. And he had a kind of tumultuous past, I guess, where he was more rebellious and everything, and that relates to legacy. We get to that, but yeah, he I want to say he's not as much in the show as I would have liked him to be. Like, he gets set up as this very important character that is like, okay, here is the current Beastar, right? That is the name of the fucking show. So you would expect him to play like one of the most integral roles in this season, and him clashing with Legoshi, and him having maybe a connection to the villain, and you know, have a connection to Legoshi's past and everything, being super important, relevant to, I don't know, the plot being driven forward. To some moments of emotional catharsis and everything. He's also a really weird guy that seems to be very anti-carnivore, and he has like this field of this carrot patch in his apartment that is grown out of the skulls of dead carnivores and everything, which is super fucked up.
Yeah, it's like they're fertilized by dead carnivores, and it's like,
and you expect something more to come from all of this. And that, I mean, that is
that part of that comes home to roost later on, in part.
Yes, but a very small. I expected it to be much more significant, and I can say that for a lot of this season, there are so many plot threads set up, character constellations set up. A lot of new characters are introduced. Some of them really cool, some of them not. A lot of that shit gets just dropped. A lot of that shit is just like, or it gets resolved in a very like minuscule matter, and it feels like, why was this in here?
There's a few things that I thought felt a little too convenient, especially towards the end. Not
only convenient, convenient implies that it's like, oh, okay, we have this now and that, because this is that way, and because they forced that, we get a good wrap up to some things. But I feel like to a lot of the things, we didn't even get a proper wrap up. It felt like these things just disappeared from the show. Some of them get wrapped up like in a 2-second scene during the ending credits running.
Yeah.
A couple of those, actually. Like, getting ahead of ourselves, but this season is chaotic, so why not?
It's so weird because the pace of the season seems to go as slow as it wants, and then it'll turn around and go 100 miles an hour the next moment. And it's like, can you decide, please?
Yes, the pacing is very uneven, and so is the focus. It often feels like, okay, the show wants to talk about these characters now, these characters now, these characters. And we've seen some of that stuff in previous seasons where it shifts focus from our main crew, and then maybe we have a bit more about the drama club, other members of the drama club and everything, and see their perspective on everything, and have them interact maybe with only Legoshi, or maybe with only Haru, or maybe with only Louis, and so on and so on. We don't always have the three main characters in the middle of all of this, but it still feels very connected and feels like it was serving the purpose of enriching our main characters and enriching this world by showing us this, and also having, having something to contribute to the themes of the show. And in this season, it felt much more standalone. A lot of that stuff feels like they were setting up something to culminate by the end. Like all of this coming together in a crescendo at the end. Like having the new play of the drama club that they're struggling with and they're trying to establish, but while being segregated in school, right? That feels like a very important plot thing. It's not necessarily in relation to the story of Legoshi and Louis, but in relation to the theme of the themes of the show, all the societal themes and everything. And I expected them like to be part of the finale in a way, or at least them cutting back to the play and everything, and have that be in synchronous with whatever is happening in the plot line of our main characters, like as a comment on that. Nothing like that happened. That fucking play that is the entire season spent so much fucking screen time on setting up, talking about it, having the characters like being frustrated over it, struggling with it. That shit gets mentioned, like the performance of gets mentioned in one sentence during the ending credits. It's like, hey, they performed that play and was a huge success. The end. And I fucking lost my mind when I saw that. It was like, what are you doing?
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like the last episode should have been like 3 episodes. So then everything would have had maybe 2 episodes. And then everything would have had time to breathe. But they just had to force it all in there. And I don't know who that falls on. I don't think it falls on Orange. I think it probably falls on like the production committee or on our friends Netflix, because it had to be pushed out in a certain number of episodes. And this is the best they could do with the time they had.
I feel like Netflix would have been open for another half season or something like that, because, if they're like, hey, people can binge it and it's something new and we can bring back subscribers with that, and saying here's the big, I don't think they would have too big of a problem with the problem of that. I think the main thing this resulted from was, and I read about it, I don't know how much of that is accurate, and I haven't compared the show to the manga myself, but apparently they rewrote, restructured, and even in some parts extended, but also streamlined a lot of the stuff that was in the manga, because apparently, I think this is Paru Itagaki's first work. I think Sanda came after that. And she apparently was not that adept at serialized storytelling, at least that's what I read at that point. So a lot of the finale in the manga apparently felt very episodic, felt very much like what a lot of parts in this show, and that's why it makes sense to me, or still feel like it feels like, okay, we're gonna talk about these characters a bit now, but nothing will really come off that, and it doesn't really have a connection to the main plot and to the main mystery and everything. And apparently that was even more so in the manga. So apparently they made some efforts to make it more cohesive in the anime and make it feel like a more homogeneous storyline, with a red plot line guiding you through. I maybe, like I said, I haven't compared it to the manga myself. In some parts, this might have been successful. I can't be the judge of that. But I feel like in a lot of parts it wasn't. And and that's also what I read. They also removed a lot of character bits from that were in the manga from the show. A lot of extended stuff when it came to Haru and Louis being involved in the drug trade stuff was removed. There was something, I think Legoshi even meets Haru's parents in the manga, which doesn't happen here. Like, he sees his dad from the distance when he picks her up at the bus stop or whatever. Yeah. But that's it. And I think there's an extended scene. I think he even comes to dinner or something like that. And that is not in this show. I would have liked to see that.
I mean, I don't know how important that is, but that seems pretty significant.
I feel it's significant enough in the sense of it concerns our two main characters. And one of the biggest plot threads in this season is still, will they be able to make it work as a cross-species couple, like as an interspecies couple? That is the thing that concerns those two, aside from the looming danger from the big villain of the season, the most, and that concerns the show the most. And it feels like something like that, where Legoshi probably runs into prejudice because he is like encountering Haru's parents, and they probably are very much concerned that her daughter is dating a carnivore. And, that's not in this. So it's like, okay, I guess I understand you were trying to make this feel more cohesive and feel like it's working more toward the finale of this. But like you said, John, it feels like it was very slow a lot of the time and was meandering and, trying different things. And then by the end, a lot of the stuff happens super fast. And in my opinion, a lot of it just doesn't connect. Like, it feels like very disjointed. It feels like, hey, we have all these different pieces and they don't come together. And some of these pieces are great. The setup is great. And we'll talk about some of the additional characters and so on, and some of the things that are addressed here. But, it feels like rushed. It feels like it is missing something. And reading up on it, apparently it is missing something. And it feels like they made some wrong decision instead of just, like you said, giving us more episodes, giving us maybe another season, and streamlining it, but also putting the maybe somewhat important character stuff in there, still leaving that in there from the manga, would have been great. And maybe putting some additional stuff in there that was missing from the manga to make some of the stuff connect better. And again, I don't know how much they changed, how much they put into this anime that they didn't put in the manga, but it definitely feels like it's lacking, and it feels like it doesn't connect. Like, the gears don't really work with each other all the time, or like most of the time, sadly. That's one of the things I felt when, like, I was very, very positive on the show in the beginning. Like the stuff that it set up and everything. Like, we have all our characters now, or not all of our characters, but a lot of our characters moving past the school life, getting real jobs and everything, and having new experiences through that. Legoshi is working as an udon delivering guy. Haru is working at a restaurant, but she's also, of course, studying at the university now. And Louis is trying to figure out the stuff with his dad, being an heir to horns, but also he still has this tangential connection to the Shishigumi and everything. And, there is enough interesting stuff there. And we have, like, Haru being, like, very naive, which, she was in some regards always. But in the first or second episode, she is like, hey, I've already experienced the worst in prejudice, xenophobia, and bullying the world had to offer in high school. It can't get worse than that, right?
Oh, Haru. You sweet summer child.
Welcome to the world of the adults, where everything is exponentially worse. Which we, see when her rabbit friend who dates a lion experiences this firsthand. I mean, Beastars has never been really subtle with its allegories and metaphors, But the gross conversation of the two goat/sheep ladies still has an entirely different ring to it when you replace them complaining about interspecies relationships with complaining about interracial relationships, and them complaining about the stench of the lion, of the carnivore. And like, oh boy. Whew.
I always go back to this, but it's like that clip from that one Adult Swim show, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, where one of the characters says something along the lines of, I know writers who have used subtext and they're all cowards. That is this show. Just condensed down to its core. There's like zero subtext to this show, man.
Yes, of course. But also, this show just has so much of that. Like, the metaphors they use, the allegories they use, are to an extent very blunt. But they are also often very muddled because Haruhi Takagi just mixes so many different ideas and potential meanings and readings together of these things. Like, I noticed the same in Sanda, but Beastars is really throwing it all in the pot. Like, starting with carnivores and herbivores. Those could be metaphors, of course, for a bunch of things from man/women, over different races, sexual and or gender identities in general, or aggressive versus passive people. That of course then feeds into themes of racism and xenophobia. Meat addiction, which is a very prominent thing in the show, can be a stand-in for drug addiction, or carnal desire, or violent tendency, specifically in males. Devouring, very important in the season, of course, again, could mean, risque kinks, assault, rape, actual cannibalism, or even just becoming vulnerable once you fully open yourself up in a relationship. Like dropping all of your emotional defenses to truly love your partner will put you at risk of, severely hurting someone else or getting severely hurt yourself. And interspecies relationships, which become even more important in this in the show, in this season, they can be an analogy for interracial relationships, like I just said, queer relationships of any kind, nonconformity with societal or gender norms. The show throws so many possibilities for interpretations of its storytelling devices in here that it's sometimes hard to see the forest for the trees. But that's also very much what makes it so interesting to watch and think about. Like, I could mull over each episode several hours in my head and still might end up with a different interpretation of one of its story beats the next time I watch it, which is cool. But it's also kind of sometimes taking away from, I don't know, the oomph some of these devices might have if it's a bit more clear-cut what they are supposed to signify or mean in that specific moment and in this specific character relationship. Because in certain parts is still a lot of guessing work, and then you might miss out on some emotional catharsis because of some of that stuff getting revolved and everything. So I feel like they could also have done a bit of streamlining there. It's still one of the best features of the show, and one of the most interesting ones, and one of the most challenging ones, thought-provoking ones. So that's cool. That's a really good way of making use of this unique setting of having all our characters be animal creatures. And they're having so much fun with that, also still in the show, just making little jokes that relate to a certain animal behaving in this world like they, I guess, ostensibly in an exaggerated way or in myth behave in our real world. Like all the pupils, the students that get like commendations and get moved over to the accelerated classes are, of course, dogs. Because dogs can be educated very easily and very well and everything. And, that, of course, Yahya is eating carrots mostly, even though he grows them out of the heads of carnivores, is, of course, also a joke. I think my favorite joke in this, my absolute favorite joke is this. We have like a group of new characters that work for Yahya, who are like these rats, 500 rats or whatever, who live kind of a Robin Hood lifestyle in the black market and take from the rich or whatever. And one of them or a couple of them work for him. And there's this one moment where one of them, I forgot what the main guys, main reds with the 3 scars on his forehead.
Was it
forgot
Korn?
His name. Corne, yes, Korn or Corne. He's doing a presentation for Yaya.
Yes.
He's using a fucking computer mouse, like a, I don't know, like a Segway or something to a degree. And it's fucking funny, like a rat using a mouse, and he just falls off the table. It's like, I hate using the mouse, and I just got a really good chuckle out of me because that's just a cute joke. That's just funny. Like a look on. I mean, Beastars has a lot of adult themes and really stuff you don't want people like that you maybe are not super familiar with, or even that you are familiar with, just running into your living room while you watch that show. Yeah. But some of these jokes are really cute. They are jokes you can tell your grandma, and it would be totally benign. So I appreciate the show for that as well, and there's a lot of fun with that. Like every time we see a new animal, they have like some kind of characteristic in a way that kind of fits the animal that they are in real life, and they make use of that and kind of make jokes out of that in one way or another, and it's fun, it's cool, and that is still in this show. So I really liked it. But yeah, I'm taking the reins again. John, what happens after we get introduced to the lives that our characters now lead, and Yaya and so on? What is one of the main driving things that happens in this season?
Yeah, like one of the he's kind of introduced a little bit later on, but probably the big, most important element to the story is Melon.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And this sort of Melon's existence introduces us to the concept of mixed. They call them mixes, but they're like mixed species creatures. Melon himself is part gazelle, part was it leopard? Leopard, right? Not cheetah. Leopard. Yes. Mm-hmm. And he sure is a character.
He's a stone cold psychopath.
Yes, he is.
Let's not mince words.
He's actually insane.
Crazy. Yes.
After Louis goes to do his thing with his father in the Horns conglomerate, yes, Emma. Melon takes over for Louis and heads up the Shishigumi, and he's just kind of a ruthless jerk motherfucker all around. To himself, a lot to himself, to all of the lions in the Shishigumi, and really to everyone around him. Nothing really matters to Melon. He is trying to search for something to make him feel something, and every time he tastes something, it's like, oh, everything just tastes like sand, and he's looking to just feel something. So a lot of his and Legoshi's ideals are very
diametrically opposed,
very at odds with each other.
Yes, for more reasons than one.
Yeah.
Which
Legoshi wants to talk things out with people, and he tries, and they end up running afoul of each other several times for several different reasons. Mm-hmm. And every time Legoshi,
kind of always ending the same way, because Legoshi is a bit of a dumbass. When it comes to this, he's very naive. He's very optimistic. For a long time, he has a faith he has too much faith in other people, and doesn't learn his lesson, because it's very evident how it will end up if he confronts Melon again.
I want to go back to that for a second for about learning lessons, because that was another one of my own personal problems with this season. There's a whole lot of several of the characters making bad decisions over and over and not really learning from them or facing any sort of consequence for it. And that was something that really rubbed me the wrong way all throughout. Like, Oshi almost dies how many times? At least 3. And he's like, he's so single-minded about, oh, I have to do this. I have to do this. And it's like, Jesus, brother, sit down, take a breath, have a look in the mirror, and just ask yourself, do you think you're going about this the right way? And there are characters around him who say that to him, and he ignores it constantly. It's like, you're 17, 18, at a certain point, years old. Okay, you're young, you're impulsive, you're very stupid. You feel like you would be learning some lessons all throughout, and he doesn't. And on the flip side, we have Haru doing the same thing, because as it turns out, Melon is posing as a professor at the school that she goes to, and very nearly devours her in his office. And all the while she's saying, well, I've almost been devoured several times, so this is something I'm used to. And then when it happens to her again, she's like, there's something really wrong here. It's like, oh, do you think? Like, oh.
I mean, going back a bit, like, you said there are not really that many repercussions for this. I mean, Legoshi gets severely fucked up, right?
He does, but that doesn't stop him.
No, of course, because, he's strong-headed and everything, or pig-headed to a degree. Well, I would say he's strong-headed, Haru is pig-headed. And maybe that's why they like each other so much, because they're kind of same-ish in that way.
They really are.
They're really headstrong characters. They're in a certain ways, even though Legoshi feels more passive, he's also still my way or the highway to a certain degree. He's just more, I don't know, I don't want to call it manipulative, but he's more like passively making it happen, while Haru is a very, at least in this season, a very going forward, I want this, give me this, and if I don't get it, I'm just gonna be, sulking somewhere in the corner or something like that, and I'm just gonna do stupid shit over and over again because this is what I want, and even though I don't really know what I want, I guess, in that regard. And I guess Legoshi gets more, I mean, Haru is more not necessarily more in danger. I guess she's more in danger because she's a bunny and doesn't really have much defenses. At least Legoshi can fight to a degree. But also he gets severely fucked up. He gets shot several times. Like, he gets shot in the stomach. He gets his ear blown off.
He pulls out his own fangs when fighting Yahya.
Yeah, which was also, I mean, I get it. It's kind of a statement, right? To make sure, hey, you can believe me. I'm so headstrong. I want to take care of herbivores. I want to have a relationship with one. You can believe me. I'm not one of those carnivores, which is also, I don't know,
quite the statement.
Yeah, exactly. So very loaded. But, he gets definitely severely fucked up, and he looks really, really scarred and tattered by the end of the show. But you're right. He's like, I'm going to try this over and over again. The problem, okay, if he did that, that's fine. The problem is he never changes his approach. It's like, oh, I'm going to find Melon. Then he finds him. Then he tries to talk to him. Melon shoots his ass. And then repeats.
He has the revelation that maybe some people are just pure evil, and he still tries to do the same thing.
Yes, it's like, maybe talk to the cops, maybe get Yaya in the boat, maybe get fucking Gohan in the boat. Like, you have a guy here who is specialized in restraining carnivores and putting them on a fucking cold turkey anti-drug program. You sure you don't want that guy helping you here?
No.
He doesn't even, or hey, maybe,
no,
I don't
necessary.
know. Ask your ask your best friend, Louis, for help, who has this rich company behind him. He could make something happen that you're safer. He doesn't do that shit. And, Haru on the other side of things is like, oh, I want to spend time with Legoshi, and I hate that he kind of puts me on the back burner because he's afraid that I'm getting hurt, or rather he wants the devouring entry removed from his record. And that's why he works together with Yahya, because Yahya is a Beastar, and he promises he will make that happen if Legoshi helps him find Melon. And that's why he's doing this in the first place. That's why he's confronting Melon in the first place. That turns into something else once he learns Melon's background, because that also relates to his background. But initially it's like, hey, I want to remove this from my record, and before I do this, I will not have a full relationship with Haru. And she is impatient, and she wants that to happen. That is okay. I understand that. I understand that she's like, it doesn't matter to me. I love you. I want to be together with you now. And I don't want to wait until your record is expired. I don't give a shit what other people are saying about our relationships. I want to make this happen right now. And I understand that. And that's commendable. And I love that about her. The problem is she puts herself in danger and then just ignores the good recommendations from Legoshi, from Louis, that are telling you, what are you doing? what the because, and she's like so fucking childish about it. And it's like, well, don't tell me what to do. You always tell me what to do. What the fuck? And that's just so, that shouldn't be her character anymore.
Girl, it's in your best interest.
Yes, it was really irritating. Like, both of our main characters are behaving like idiots in a lot of ways in this season. And at when the final moment comes where they're not entirely behaving like idiots anymore, that goes by super quick, because it's like in the last couple episodes of the show, or last 2 episodes of the show.
Yeah.
And before that, it's a lot of running around and them, like you said, making the same mistakes over and over again. And it is really stupid. So one of the big, still one of the most interesting things in this season, like you said, is the introduction of the concept of mixes. That actually different species, and not just, kind of affiliated species, like maybe a tiger and a lion and so on. No. For example, goddamn wolf and a Komodo dragon can have relationships, sexual relationships, and a child can come from that. And that child can inherit traits from both parents. And the big person of that is, of course, like that introduced that is Melon. We don't know that about him in the beginning. We see him running. We don't even see his face in the beginning. We see his hands. We see him killing people. We see him talking to the Shishigumi, but we don't see his face. And the Shishigumi have like this turf war that is upcoming with the other 3 factions of the black market. And since Louis left, they're not as strong anymore, and they need a new leader. So that's why they attach themselves to Melon, even though they don't really like him. And he scares them. And but he takes over. He makes them peddle this new energy drink called Kines, who, as we later learn, is made up with ingredients of with meat. Particles and so on, or parts of herbivore meat are in there, and bones. And if carnivores drink that, it intoxicates them to a degree, or makes them very aggressive, and especially if they've eaten meat before. So that's one of the big plot lines that are happening in the background. Several of our characters are investigating that at the same time. Yaya, Louis, and of course Legoshi. And trying to find out who's behind this. And then we learn it's Melon, and they're going to try to find Melon. They find him, but he escapes several times and so on. And there's this really cool reveal of Melon, of his face, when Legoshi corners him in this nightclub. And he pulls off his mask, like tears it in the middle, and you see his face, like his teeth. He's a gazelle, but he has leopard teeth, and he has leopard spots in certain parts, which he has a sloth tattoo over with melon leaves because he wants to hide his carnivore part. That's why he's also wearing the mask over his mouth. But that moment is really cool. That's really effective.
It was like super creepy. Oof.
I bet this was one of the best and coolest pages in the manga.
Yeah.
I assume you just turn the page and then you see him tearing off the middle of his mask, and you see his his carnivore grin there with the sharp teeth and everything. That looked really cool, and I liked it. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, this is a cool villain. This is really interesting. And we then learn, or even before that a bit, we learn that this heavily also relates to Legoshi because he is also a mix. He is grandpa. We get to become acquainted with him in this season. He gets introduced here is Gosha, who had a history with Yahya, by the way. They were both like these rebels on motorcycles or whatever. And then Gosha, a classic Yankee stuff. And then Gosha in one where they rescue a wolf lady in some situation. Because they already, back then, they were kind of doing vigilante stuff to a degree. And she falls in love with him. He falls in love with her. And they have a child, which is Legoshi's mom. And yeah, so Legoshi is a quarter Komodo dragon, which I expected him to exhibit more traits of. Apparently, they say he has like the same eyes as his grandpa, which is a very funny scene when Gosha is going after Haru to keep an eye on her, to protect her, when he learns that she and Legoshi are involved, and she thinks she's like stalked by some kind of predator and electrocutes him. And he's like, "No, I'm Legoshi's granddad. Don't you see our the familiarity in the eyes? Don't you see that we have the same eye shape?" And she's like, "You're a fucking Komodo dragon," and electrocutes him again. And it was really funny. So. But yeah, that's a new thing we learn about Legoshi. I expected to be more important in the show again than it was. It is important in regards to the themes, interracial relationships and maybe interracial children, those being subjected to bullying and to xenophobia and so on. That comes into play very much, especially for our main villain. And I guess down the road when, it becomes more and more about interspecies relationships and so on, and the herbivores in these relationships being in danger of being devoured, and but this, this society still trying to make this work and having this theme of, hey, we're trying to work all together, that also being part of the drama, clubs, play, and everything. So it all feeds into that, but just in terms of our main character, it feels like it's a bit lacking in terms of what they're doing with that.
Yeah, they sort of touch on that, and it doesn't really come up in any significant capacity. Again, like Melon looks at him and says, "Oh, you're a mix too," and it's like that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of sitting here like, okay, and?
Yeah. And, there is this important thing with how the relationship, how Legoshi's mom died, I guess, is an important thing, because she apparently killed herself. Because apparently mixed children don't come out as showing signs of being a mixed child from the get-go. They, the signs of that, or the traits of that, are developed over time. And I think once they turn 80 or 20 or something like that, then they are a full mix or something like that. So Legoshi's mom lives her life as a wolf, a very pretty wolf apparently, who gets a model contract and so on for most of her life, and then has a child with another wolf, and that is Legoshi, of course. And then at, I don't know when she becomes, when she's in her mid-20s or something, maybe, she starts her
I think she was like 19, 20-ish.
She got her kid very young. But her Komodo dragon skin starts to break through, and that kind of completely fucks her up. And she can't do, of course, her model career anymore. She can't live a somewhat normal life anymore, because things back then was like mixed children, mixed species were even ostracized even more back then than there are apparently in the time that is today in the show. And so it's really supposed to be like this tragic story. And when Legoshi, I think when he gets shot for the first time, he has an out-of-body experience and meets his dead mom. Like, it's a nice, albeit bittersweet scene that makes Legoshi reflect on the regret he still feels toward not telling his mom that he loved her, mix or not. And I feel the blame is shifted a bit too much away from his mom, in my opinion. Like, yeah, her being half Komodo dragon becoming evident at a certain age, which doesn't really happen to Legoshi during the runtime of the show. It might still happen. Probably thrust her into a deep depression and being probably bullied and so on. But it feels like the show is trying to absolve her of her decision to kill herself and thus abandon her child, which in my opinion is an absolute no-go. Once you put a child into this world, no matter how shitty you feel, that is your responsibility, and leaving that behind just to ease your own pain is a really shitty decision. I mean, I make that easier on myself. That's not how depression works, and I'm pretty sure she was depressed, even though the show never fully confirms that. But, you know, it feels like the show's really trying to absolve her of that, especially her saying, yeah, well, if you said something the night before I died, things might be different, which sucks. On the other hand, this is just Legoshi's mind conjuring up an image of his mom to help him work through his emotional baggage. So since he loved his mom even after she abandoned him, he would also absolve her of her being a shitty mom in his mind and put at least half of the blame on himself. So depending on how you want to read this, it either kind of sucks or is a somewhat problematic but still cathartic moment for Legoshi. I'm leaning towards the latter. How about you?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So it's still fine. I think it's good if you read it like that Legoshi is working through his own stuff and wants to forgive his mom and everything. And it definitely gives him a new goal in the form of standing up for other mixes, which he wasn't able to do for his mom. Which, Legoshi, my man, you were a child and nobody could ask you for that, not even your mother. It was her job to take care of you, not the other way around, and she failed. The reasons are somewhat understandable, I guess, but she still chose an egotistic path instead of doing the one thing a mother is supposed to do. So, I was not happy putting himself on that on himself, but it's understandable.
Yeah, it's kind of tough no matter how you slice it, though. You know, all of the could-haves, would-haves, should-haves, you know.
It's a very complicated thing, but I'm glad the show put that in there, you know, because it makes kind of sense. And also, again, it relates to Melon. Like, Melon's psychosis is a result of severe self-loathing induced by a society that celebrates herbivores and carnivores getting along, but regarding mixed children resulting from such relationships as freaks. And he's, like, really annoyed when Legoshi says he likes mixes. Like, he cannot allow such an open show of acceptance to shake his worldview, so he shoots Legoshi the first time. Like, you see, he gets really, like, pissed off when Legoshi just throws that in his face. And I mean, it's also to throw Yaya off his game and everything, but I'm pretty sure after all these years of being ostracized, encountering someone that could be a person that accepts him as he is far more dangerous to his convictions than anything else, and he can't have that. And that kind of feels like becomes the main relationship between the two. Legoshi trying to reach out to him, even when he says, oh, he's pure evil and so on, you still feel like he's himself not really convinced of that, and he still tries to reach out to them until the very end where he fights them, but he still feels like, okay, he's trying to reach out to the guy. And Melon, on the other hand, is like, fuck you. You know what I enjoy? The hopeless look on people's faces before I kill them. And I'm like, okay, Legoshi, how about you try to help another mix who has not already turned by society, been turned by society in a complete psychopathic piece of shit? And, you know, it's still cool, like, using that in using Melon as a device for this kind of discussion in terms of children being bullied because they have mixed heritage or something like that. And, you know, that's kind of his ultimate goal, which is kept in the dark for a pretty long time. And then later we learn he wants to punish people in interspecies relationships because he blames his, in his eyes, egotistical, irresponsible parents for creating him. He hates his mom, which is understandable because she's pretty weird and has like this really weird and fucked up relationship to him.
It's not clear if his mom devoured his father, because the way she looks at him, he's like, you have that look in your eyes like your father slathers her lips with her tongue. It's like,
yeah, it's really freaky. And of course, if you want to read it in a real life way, maybe don't do that. That reeks like sexual child abuse. And so from that point of view, it's kind of understanding that he feels like he needs to punish people who are irresponsibly bringing children like him into the world and then causing pain and suffering from them. And he says life is hell for mixes since they are subjected to severe bullying and xenophobia. He has experienced this kind of life and wants to stop any more children like him being created, or at least he wants to show the parents to be the hypocrites that they are and make them devour each other. That's what he created Keenis for, and the other drug melter or whatever that he has this weird cat shitting into people's coffee or whatever create. But yeah, so there is that, but the show kind of makes him out to be much cleverer than he is. He seems to be very superficial with all of this. He is kind of like this Joker character who is kind of like this chaotic force of nature and has kind of an anarchistic approach to things, but it feels very, hey, I've read about this thing once and now I know everything about it, and I know more about it than all the other people, and everyone who's trying to reach out to me and trying to tell me something, I just push away because they don't know anything anyway. And I'm just trying to play the role of this absolute freak who is enjoying this kind of shit. Because that is easier than the other thing.
He's got big, we live in a society energy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just like, brother, the way you're going about things, come on, man.
Yes, there's this moment where he proposes a Sophie's choice to Legacy, like live in a world with no devourings but mass surveillance, or in a world with devouring but total freedom. Like, how about instead of choosing between China or total lawlessness, we choose a third middle of the road path? Thank you very much.
No, that's not possible. It has to be my way or the highway.
Exactly. And the fact that Legoshi even gives this strawman argument the time of day shows his naivete. Don't debate with psychopaths.
Like, when he stands there to consider it, I was like, Legoshi, dude, come on.
And it's so frustrating, and it's so cheap, and it's like, man, you had this opportunity to create this really interesting villain that really has this troubled childhood, and he kills several of his classmates who try to make him jump off a building and stuff like that, and all of that shit is gross and horrible, and I feel sorry for that version of him, and that version that was subjugated to his shitty mom and everything. But he made his choice so often and has become this person that he is now, and he's enjoying it so much, or pretending to enjoy it so much, that it feels very hard to empathize with that version of him now. And even Legacy, he tries it at the beginning very haphazardly and kind of half-assed and half-cocked, and gets punished for it to a certain degree. Even when his girlfriend is in danger, he doesn't really change his approach that much and everything. So it also feels like they're not really doing what they could do. Like, having really... You needed two very world-savvy characters to clash here. Like, you had to have at least somewhat on an same intellectual level as Melon to debate him in this shit, if you wanted to have a debate with this kind of psychotic person. And they don't have that. They sent Legoshi in the field, who is just like this innocent, dumb person.
Yeah. I mean, at least Legoshi and Louis have the wherewithal to say, hey, your professor is dangerous and you should stay away from him.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's that. And we already talked about how Haru should listen to them, but doesn't because she's a bit like pig-headed. And yeah, it's fine. Like, it is, the potential of this entire storyline is more interesting than what they actually did that with it and how they resolve it. How they resolve it is also not interesting at all. It like ends in this big brawl at the black market, this black market turf war that is also like really absolutely not important whatsoever. It gets set up as the thing, and it's the main motivation of the Shishigumi trying to get the new boss and associating themselves with Melon and trying to get Louis back and everything. But aside from that, nothing comes out of that turf war that is super interesting. We don't get introduced to any of the other factions really, which makes it really weird that Legoshi is fighting one of them in the final episode, that they spend time on that instead of just fighting Melon and everything. And it doesn't have to do anything with anything. No. It's just so unimportant. But that's the finale of this. Haru is not really involved in it, except at the very end when she has tells the mob that Legoshi is not a dangerous carnivore. He gets framed by Melon for a crime, for a murder in the tattoo parlor. Also a thing like, Legoshi, my dude, you have been lured into a trap several times by this character. How the fuck do you not run into this fucking office, see dead people, and immediately are like, oh, fucking shit. Oh, I'm being set up. I need to get out of here. Yes, I get it, because Legoshi is not world savvy. He's a dumbass. He's a kid. He doesn't know what he's doing, but it doesn't make it less frustrating.
It's for the drama.
Yes, but it doesn't also, hey, that doesn't work. It's not like he gets caught and then has to do torture or stuff. Look, he's retreating himself to the sewers, talks a bit with the rats and everything. And I like these characters. It's fun and so on. But that is also something that happens a lot in this show. They have really cool cliffhangers. They have really, really cool endings of episodes. And it's like, oh my God, our character, whoever that is now in a really big bind. How are they going to resolve that? And in the next episode, that shit gets immediately either resolved, undercut by a joke, or immediately it gets deflated by not being what we thought it would be. And so much of that happens. And oh my God, Legoshi is going to be trapped by the police. And holy fucking shit, what is he going to do? And so on. He's on the run. And the show plays is kind of like for laughs a lot of times. And it's like, no, it's not that serious. He'll figure it out. And it's so weird. It's so totally disjointed from what they are presenting at the end of each episode, and feels very cheap. It feels like, hey, turn in next time, see what happens. Like Batman and Robin getting in the 70s show, getting captured by the Joker, and then in this death trap, and in the first minute of the next episode, they just get out of this trap. And that happens in this show so many fucking times. Mm-hmm. And nothing really results from that. I think the best cliffhanger is still the mid-season break thing after the first core, where Legoshi gets thrown into the ocean, and we know, oh, he got out of this because there's this new character that gets introduced, who is pretty cool, Sagwan, who is like this spotted seal, and we learn about this whole different society in that sea creatures are, who completely different behavior there. Them eating each other is super normal in that society. That's what Sagwan teaches Legoshi about. And they have really interesting conversations about that. And Sagwan is just a really cool character.
Yeah, I loved Sagwan.
Sagwan is fantastic. And he teaches Legoshi, when they have a bath together, he teaches him what to say underwater when he's in a difficult situation, and how he can get help. And he at the moment Melon kicks him into the ocean, okay, he learned this from Sagwan 2 episodes before. That's gonna come back now, and you think that's gonna be the cliffhanger, and that would have been okay, that would have not been really. Oh, how will he get out of that? But then they actually end that episode on the reveal that Melon works at Haru's college. and that he's one of her professors. And that's like a real good what the fuck moment. That was really nice. And if I hadn't watched the entire season in one go, and had to wait between that episode and, you know, the second half of that season coming out later, I would have lost my mind, because that was a really, really good twist, which I didn't see coming.
Yeah, I think them dropping it all at once kind of did that a little bit of a disservice.
Yeah, so, you know, there's some good stuff in there, but most of that, even with a good setup like this really tense moment at the end of an episode, they don't really carry it into the next episode that much. And don't get me wrong, every time we have a scene with Haru and Melon together, it's really tense. It's really scary. You don't know what he's gonna do the next time. It's kind of... It's partially gets deflated by the weird way Haru in parts behaves sometimes. But you know she is in severe danger, even though she doesn't realize it necessarily, or is kind of fatalistic about this, or doesn't really care, or whatever. So it's really cool, but it's not like there's this moment in the show later where Haru is put in direct danger by Melon, and they have like this three-way conversation where Haru maybe has an effect on Melon or on Legoshi or whatever. All of this shit runs separately. All of that shit, Louis is never involved in any of this, really. All of this shit does not
directly anyway.
Not directly, no. I mean, he's involved in trying to find Melon in that regard. He's the one who reveals to the public that Kines is like this dangerous drink, right? He gains some public recognition from that, is on the track again to become the Beastar and so on. And there's this weird conspiracy thing with the mayor of the town who is blackmailing Louis' father and so on. It's also not really important. It's like the one thing, oh God, maybe because Louis got himself partially devoured or whatever, he's being blackmailed and stuff and can't do everything that he wants to do, can't reveal that the mayor is involved with this shit and also funded this drink, or I don't know. It doesn't really amount to much. That's the problem. And it doesn't feed really that much into the main storyline with Melon and the confrontation with Melon at the end. It feels like that confrontation should have been like a bigger deal, should have been like the thing, should have been set up differently. There needed to be more stakes. There are not really any stakes in the ending. They have like this weird thing where it's like, hey, Melon puts like his loses the fight against Legoshi in the final episode, of course he does, and then puts his puts a gun next to his chest and says and shoots himself, which I was kind of pretty pissed that the second OP somewhat spoiled that. It showed us the scene at the black market, Legoshi and Melon confronting each other, and Melon holding a gun to his head, and I thought they would play like Russian roulette or something like that by the end, which didn't happen. And that scene didn't happen because he puts the gun to his chest and then shoots himself, which he apparently survives for some reason.
How?
I don't know. But then he says, I put the last hurrah, ha-ha joke on you. I played the last joke on you, Legoshi. I'm going to put your loved ones in danger. And apparently the show makes it out like he put meat garnished with the smelter drug, who does the same thing Kines does in on the Meteor Fest set it up at the Meteor Festival, so all the carnivores will consume it, and then everyone, all the herbivores will get devoured and so on. That doesn't really happen. Only the mayor drinks like a drink laced with that shit and gets taken out pretty quickly. Like, Haru is never in any real danger. Not of any of his classmates are. Louis, I guess, to a degree, but not really, because Legoshi is immediately there. So out of this, like, it feels for a show that is really like in the back of on your mind, is setting up all the stuff that, hey, this is gonna, all this shit is gonna come to a head here in the festival, and we're gonna have all these people going insane with the drug, and someone has to stop them. None of that shit happens. Like,
yeah, it's like ultimately very unimportant.
Yeah, absolutely unimportant. It's like, it's background noise. And it's like kind of a motivation for Louis' storyline a bit to investigate shit and become more important again and rising through the ranks. We have this weird storyline with his marriage. Like, he has an arranged marriage, and we have Juno, bless her heart, who's just fallen heads over heels with Louis and tries to figure out how to start a relationship with him. And there's some neat stuff in there. Like, we have this talk with her and Haru, who had also a relationship with Louis at some point. And Juno doesn't know that, but she has this. They have this this talk, and it kind of becomes clear that Juno is also really into Louis as a person, and not necessarily into him because she has an herbivore fetish, and that. That was a nice moment, and it was a cool moment for a character. Does anything come from that? No. Their relationship gets wraps up in 1-2 second scene during the credits scroll, and it's like, come on, what are you doing? Like, Louis decides, realizes he, like, herbivores don't do it for him anymore. He doesn't get it up literally with herbivores anymore. So he has a problem, like, losing himself in his arranged marriage, like building an actual relationship with Azuki, the daughter of another company, and his dad arranged that shit. And that sounds like something interesting. Like, he's like, I can't be with you because I feel more comfortable around carnivores now. I don't know why. Sorry, I'm fucked up or whatever. And of course, that is kind of an allegory to someone having a coming out and realizing they are gay and they can't have a relationship, a heterosexual relationship anymore. Of course, it's that. But this show doesn't really do with that anything with that. Instead, she's like, oh, I understand that. No, that doesn't matter to me. You can live your life. I'm only in it for the marriage. And if we want to have kids, that can be achieved another way. What the fuck? And that's how the show ends that particular relationship. Louis apparently, like, does what his father wants, becomes the head of the company, and has this arranged marriage that is not going to be a happy relationship, and is going to just have this fake marriage. And it's like, why is that the resolution for this character? Are you kidding me, show? What the fuck is going on?
I mean,
what kind of message is this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at least Azuki is willing to agree on part of that.
Yes. But it's not like the show makes it out to be like this nice things, and it's like, oh, Louis, your problems are resolved because she doesn't really care about this, and she just wants to marry you, but she doesn't need to have a relationship with you. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Yes, that sounds like a fantastic way to live. Like, Jesus. That fucked me up. That was so stupid. Like, all of that fucking plot line didn't make any fucking sense. And then putting so much time into Juno fretting over him like this goddamn high school girl. That whole romance thing was so goddamn high school, and it was so saccharine. And it's like, okay, I'm not gonna be happy if they get together, but maybe they will have an extended talk about this and see that they have a different relationship. Or maybe now that he's more only comfortable carnivores, he realizes that he can build a relationship with her after all, even though they have like maybe this age gap or whatever. And he says like, I'm gonna wait for you, but I'm gonna give this a chance or whatever. None of this shit happens. Like, she gets dropped like in the credits. it's not progressed in any way, and it's so stupid. It's so stupid. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. And the show gave me that feeling so many times by the end, and it frustrated me so much. Like, all of these different plot threads that were set up in the beginning. By the end, by the time we get to the end, I felt like, I don't know, 1% of that mattered. 1% maybe. Like,
if
the
that.
stuff with the stuff with Legoshi's granddad is cool, right? And I like that, and I like the whole thing with the mixed and melon and everything, and that's probably the most juicy and most substantial stuff that we get in this show.
Juicy like a melon,
like a big old steak. Yes.
Oh no.
But there's also, and you think, okay, Legoshi has this stuff with his grandpa and is a mix himself, and that will more heavily, there will be a cathartic moment where maybe his granddad comes in, and that shows Melon that because Legoshi loves his granddad and everything, and that shows him that there is another way. And that doesn't mean that will like stop him from, maybe that would stop him from actually having the people put the drug up at the market or whatever. That's finally what like pushes him towards Legoshi's vision of, hey, there is another different way for this. But no, the show doesn't do that. Instead, we get also this weird thing that involves the death of Legoshi's grandma, which is supposed to be tragic and romantic, I guess. But it seems kind of dumb to me.
Yeah, that was so... What?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
It's supposed to be this very romantic gesture, right? Because it's set up that, hey, Komodo dragon's poison is toxic to everyone except people who carry their genes, like family members. So Legoshi is immune to Gosha's poison. His grandma, and of course Legoshi's mom also was immune to his poison. But his grandma, like Gosha's wife, was not. And so Gosha always took very much care, was very careful not to get any poison on her. And if he did, he disinfected her hands immediately, had her carry gloves and so on. And they didn't really kiss that much, which makes me wonder how they fucking had a child.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe condoms don't work, of course, in this regard. Maybe it was not conceived the traditional way. Maybe they had an in vitro insemination. I fucking know. But anyway, so they can have that kind of relationship. So what his grandma, I forgot her name, did.
Toki.
Did at some point, she kisses Gosha and immediately dies. And it's supposed to be this romantic gesture was like, I wanted to make you not live your entire life worrying about the consequences of our relationship. I wanted to have to live you for once without worry, without fear, and cherish this relationship.
And you could do that only once, lady.
Yes, and it's again very egotistical because she like now her fucking daughter only has a dad anymore. I probably would have liked to have a mom. Her mom would have maybe been able to help her get through the tough shit that she exhibited when that she went through when she exhibited her body exhibited Komodo dragon traits at some point. Would have maybe changed things here, and the show tries to put it as this like thoughtful gesture. And that thoughtful gesture robbed Gosha of a wife and their daughter of a mother. Like, that's dumb anime parent shit. I hated this. Mm-hmm. It was so stupid, and the show doesn't understand that it was dumb and horrible.
And I mean, you could argue that, by extension, that robbed Legoshi of his mother.
Obviously, yes, of course. Like I said, like, if his grandma was still around when her mom really got into depression and everything, she might have been able to help her with her love, and she wasn't there. I mean, Gosha didn't succeed, and he probably tried, but hey, two parents maybe could have done something here, and it's just so dumb, and it's so dumb that the show doesn't understand that it is just not this romantic gesture that it tries to make it out to be, and is instead a horrible miscalculation and a very egotistical choice in a way. And oh, Jesus Christ, I hated this so much. And that's also in here, and it kind of sullies the cool setup for this, and having this interesting relationship between Legoshi and his granddad, which is still cool, and it's nice to see Gosha realized that Legoshi can handle himself to a certain degree, and after he's been worrying about him so much, which is kind of, makes sense considering what happened to his wife and everything and to his daughter. But he sees that his grandson is better off because he's more headstrong. He's finding his way in life. He's still an idiot, but he has kind of the strength of Gosha in himself to a certain degree. He has inherited that and can make it work, and knows he is strong enough to find eventually his happiness with Haru, and that that is the ease. That is the thing that makes Gosha happy, and that is kind of a rewarding, cathartic moment. One of the very few in this season where it's like, okay, at least Gosha went through so much shit because of the relationship he chose, and that wasn't a decision not made by him, that it ended up the way it did. That was a decision made by his wife, her killing herself, and then his daughter killing herself, and so on. He went through a lot of shit. Now he finally sees that there can be a happy end for interspecies relationships. And of course, that is nice and everything. But it also feels very, and you alluded to that in the beginning, it feels very, not necessarily convenient, but contrived, trying to get you to that cathartic, emotional cathartic moment.
I went through this entire season just thinking this is going to have some like Romeo and Juliet ending where either or Legoshi or Haru were going to die somehow. And because the flags kept going up. And then at the end, it's like, no, it's okay. And I'm just like, well, I mean, I'm happy for you too, but like,
I mean, I don't know if I wanted a Romeo and Juliet happening, Romeo and Juliet ending, because
no, I didn't want that, but it's just, it just felt like they were trying to go towards that, and then at the end, we're like, nah.
And it could have been red herrings, because the show kind of makes it out. Okay, this is all interspecies relationships will go this way, right? They will end in sadness and in tragedy, right? That is what the show is painting it, and that's Melon's worldview. Right? That's the worldview of our villain. So, of course, it feels like the show is pushing you towards this idea. And I feel like them having a happy end by the end, having resolve of that and becoming a happy couple, for now anyway, nobody knows if that will pan out, but the show makes it seem like that will be the case. I think that itself is not the problem, even if it just arrives at the very end. I think the problem is that a lot of that stuff doesn't feel earned, because they don't have that much. They have screen time together in the season, but not screen time where their relationship gets super evolved to a new level. It's mostly them bickering with each other, one arguing for a still stand, and the other one arguing for, no, we want to do this now, but also then not listening to other things the other characters to say. And it's a lot of them miscommunicating. And only they have these multiple fake outs. There's this moment where Haru stands on, I don't know, a chair or something, or a table, and she finally is in kissing height, and they don't do that, even though she wants to and he wants to, but then he's like, no, we need to keep that for later. And it's so stupid. And it feels like there should have been this moment at the very end where Haru really, through a very active part, and not just running into the crowd and proclaiming in front of everyone that is her boyfriend and they don't need to be afraid of him because he's a carnivore. That kind of never was out of the question that she would do that. Right? Because she was always, after the second season, she was super convicted that she and Legoshi would end up together. She wanted that to happen. And it was clear that she would stand up for him in that situation. There needed to be a moment where they both had to overcome a specific obstacle together, in my opinion, that would have cemented their relationship and would have made it feel like the resolve of that earned, and them being able to finally have that, and throwing it in the face of everyone, society, who say they can't have that, our main villains say that they can't have that, maybe even Legoshi at times questioning if they have that. Having this big moment of them together, overcoming an obstacle, finding a solution to a big problem that probably should relate to the villain, should have been in the show, and it is not really in there. That is not what we get as the finale of this. We get the finale of Legoshi saving the day, and then he's at risk of being, I don't know, stoned to death or something, like by people, I don't know, or they're getting their pitchforks or whatever. And then Haru runs in and says, like, no, he's okay. And then that's that is what makes this work. And it feels so flat and boring and unearned. And everything the show was building up in its first couple of seasons, and all the hardship it puts its character through, and Haru not being really involved with any of the Melon stuff, aside of being a damsel in distress for a while without really realizing it, and so on. And it's just the emotional resonance wasn't there. It never felt like the show did the legwork to make this happy and feel earned. And that's the thing that bothered me the most, probably. Like, all of that shit that feels like it should have been connected, all that shit that worked together, it doesn't by the end. Like, it's not here. And yeah, it's just, that's how it is. That's how I felt by the end of the show.
It's frustrating is what it is. Like, there's so much interesting and good potential all throughout this part of the story, and a lot of it either just gets forgotten or dropped or pushed aside or twisted in a way that doesn't make sense. And I mean, I feel like there's still some level of enjoyment to be found out of this, but it just doesn't come together at the end. It's just really disappointing.
Yes. There were several other little parts. I don't want to go into details, all of them, but because I want to wrap this up. But, we have a couple of characters that get brought in, and I think there's more to them, but there really isn't. I mean, Sagwan is still the best of them, I would say. Mm-hmm. But there's Seven, for example, one of Legoshi's neighbor, who's prominently featured in the first episode. They don't really do anything with her. And, then you also, in regards to the pacing and keeping the tension alive, I wish the cat and mouse game between Melon and Legoshi was more tense in general. Mm-hmm. But the few scenes between Melon and Haru aside, where she is put in imminent danger, maybe, there's no real build-up. And the different parties, like I said, all act independently. So there's no real joint story to tell that could be created tension from here as well. And even when the characters are kind of connected to the main plot, their roles often seem much less important than they should be. For example, Yaya, who is introduced as one of the more important characters at the beginning of the show, like I said, kind of just mostly disappears after the halfway point. Like, he's not in that show anymore. He comes in again by the very, very end and finally says what his point of view is. But he's the fucking Beastar. You would expect him to be more in this. No real presence, no effect on the plot. Fucking poof. And he's... Yes.
They're trying to paint him out to be like this mysterious guy, and yeah, it's a mystery what you actually do, guy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bummer. I loved the first 2 seasons of this, right? I mean, we both did. We were raving over it. We was like, oh man, this is a CG show. Oh, we'll see. And then we were like fucking floored by how good the first season was, and then the fucking 10-second season when they finally reveal who the villain is and how fucked up that all was and everything with Reze. It was so good. It was so strong. And I feel like this season started out like that as well. I feel it started out strong and promising. Some interesting setups. Like, what is going on with Kines? Who is the new enigmatic villain? What is Yahia's deal? Will Legoshi and Haru be able to make their relationship work? Will the drama club work out? How does that figure into the ending and everything? The mixed stuff, the interspecies stuff that gets introduced, that's solid stuff. But the further the season progressed, the more it became clear that the show didn't really have an interesting answer to any of these questions, and would rather prefer to mostly tread water and meander into a bunch of different directions. I liked many of its parts. I like the drama club stuff, but there's basically no interaction between them and any of our 3 main characters anymore. And that was a big part of the first 2 seasons. That was the main setting, mostly. And what a goddamn kick in the balls that we didn't even, like I already mentioned, that we didn't even see part of the play, and it being a success was mentioned only in passing during the credits of the final episode. That's still just as absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, that was a real pisser.
And I liked Legoshi's relationship to his grandfather. What little we got of Louis and Legoshi together, I also liked. I think their relationship is still one of the strongest things in the show, but there was not enough of that in this season. But I liked what was there. I liked. Same for the few bits of Louis interacting with the Shishigumi. I think that is also a very interesting relationship. And there's a legacy there through the second season. And they could have done some really interesting stuff with that. But also, not enough in here. We have a couple of scenes where they're like, will you come back to us? Will you come back to us? And he's like, no, can't do that because Ibuki died so I could get away from you. So if I return to you now, that will invalidate his death. So I cannot do that. And that is cool and that makes sense. But it's still like there's nothing more in there. And the Shishigumi are so much in this season. And you're like, okay, but What? Why? And what are you doing? The answer is nothing. By the end, they're not important.
Yeah.
They could have done way more with that. I liked some parts of the progression of Legoshi's and Haru's relationship, although they share way too little screen time and relevant character and plot movements together in this season. And let's face it, Haru is often used, if not as a direct damsel, then as someone that is always under the threat of being in danger to spring Legoshi into action. She is not that much of a proactive, problem-solving character in this. There's a moment where she investigates in the university in regards to Melon, because Legoshi can't go there because he would be suspicious and so on. And that is cool. More of that, please. Having her more of an active role in the investigation, even though it's dangerous to her, but she's a smart cookie and she can do some research in other parts and so on. And she's headstrong, so it would make sense that she would put herself in danger in these moments. But at least then it would make sense, and not because she is not afraid of being like consumed. She would do it for Legoshi. She would do it to save. Maybe after she learns that he's an a mix, she wants to also save mixed people, and she wants to prove that she can have mixed child with Legoshi and everything, and that's why she does it. None of that is in here. Nothing. I like the concept of Melon as a villain. Someone mistreated by the world, twisted so thoroughly by the societal stigma put on his existence that he would lash out at society itself and try to dismantle it from the inside. That's juicy stuff. But ultimately, the show didn't do much with that promising idea than to make the guy the Joker of this universe and a somewhat persistent threat to some of our main characters. And, like, by the end, none of these cool, partially cool, individual, potentially cool pieces come together to say anything meaningful or give us any kind of emotional catharsis. All these different promising gears are disjointed and don't really connect with each other. And all the other million things that the show throws into these 24 episodes ultimately feel like somewhat cute character beats at best and pointless padding at worst. Why was Yaya even in this? What about Seven? What was the point of her being in more than one episode? What the hell was the Turf War story? That amounted to fuck all. Were we really supposed to give a shit about Louis' fiancé or the corruption storyline with the mayor and horns? Because I sure didn't. Why are there two different versions of basically the same drug that need to be established and get an otherwise completely pointless side character in the form of Deshiko to exposition dump their origin on us?
Yeah, that in particular confused the hell out of me. I was like, why do we need this? What is this for? And it doesn't ever really feel like any of it comes together or matters.
Yes, throw all that garbage out. It's useless. It's distracting. It doesn't contribute anything of substance to the story or the characters, and barely any of the themes. Like, focus on our main characters. Try to spin a story out of them. Try to make them interact with each other more, and try to have them work together to solving the main problem of the season, which is trying to find Melon, getting rid of them, and then have all the interspecies stuff relate to that. But have these three characters work together, have them build this strong union that they had in the previous season, now that they have this new life. So we have this feeling of these core three that have a strong relationship. Maybe even throw Juno in there at some point, make her part of the group. I don't know. Have Sagwan do a bit more, but have these interesting characters that are somewhat important and really contribute something to the story, to the main plot. Have them work together on this. Don't throw any other weird shit in there that we don't need. And speaking of the themes, I love the wide swings the show takes in regards to its many varied themes that I mentioned earlier. And it's really interesting and somewhat thought-provoking how it uses its animal theme to give us a potentially interesting new point of view on some of the subtextual stuff the show has to offer. I like the idea of mixes they introduced in this season. A really cool idea, albeit way too underused when it comes to our main character, outside of him being able to somewhat relate to the villain, which doesn't really do him any good, though, because the villain is a completely irredeemable psycho. I really had to laugh when Melon shoots himself in the chest, not in the head, in the reveal, like I said, and Legoshi says, "Melon, don't die on me." Really, dude? Really? Are we still doing this? grow the fuck up.
No, I have to have it all my way, though.
And even all the interesting thematic bullet points that are somewhat thought-provoking and substantial in theory, by the end felt like mostly decoration and didn't really deliver anything beyond the "let's overcome our differences, please, even if it's tough" message, which is good and fine and nice, but the show could have done so much more with that. It really feels like Paru Itagaki had the story completely mapped out for the material that we got in season 1 and 2, and then the manga was a success, and she was asked to write more, and she couldn't figure out how, and this is what we got. It partially feels like a reboot, even.
I think you're probably right about that.
Maybe, yeah. Like, even to a bigger degree than what we get with Attack on Titan, where it's obvious that Isayama wanted to end the story once they resolve the main conflict on the island and see the open sea, and then have like this ambiguous ending where they stare out and wonder if there's a peaceful world beyond the horizon. That was supposed to be the ending, obviously. And then Attack on Titan became this mega hit, and then he just extended that, which I didn't hate what he did. I liked that more than other people. So it was okay for me. But here, it definitely felt like, okay, I had the story mapped out for the first 2 seasons, and I wanted it to end this way, and now I need to keep going, and this is how I do it, and it doesn't work out. Like, the first 2 seasons had a pretty strong focus on the relationship between Legoshi, Haru, and Louis, our main 3. Added to that, the drama club member characters and stories, and the whodunit mystery with Reze. And yes, Louis' storyline with the Shishigumi in season 2 was already somewhat separate from the other stuff, but it worked as a good dark mirror to Legoshi's trajectory, and both of them trying to figure out where they wanted to go, and also, Louis' kind of fondness of carnivores, and that playing into his character, into the themes of the show, like I already suggested earlier, and everything. So all of that worked, and then ultimately, and also the character stuff with Ibuki and Louis was great. That worked great. That worked fantastically. And it all ended in both Legoshi and Louis sacrificing a part of themselves or their convictions to overcome a greater evil, which is what I kind of wanted from this season. If you kind of do the same thing again in regard of, hey, here's a villain, a mystery villain, at least to a degree, and we're trying to capture him and everything, at least end it in a consistent way. They did that in the second season. They don't do it here. All of that just worked in the first 2 seasons. It rhymed, it felt earned, it was satisfying. The final season had barely any of that. And certainly not in the end. We get a new villain who is pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but whose mystery is lifted pretty quickly and then is turned into a kind of prolonged cat and mouse hunt that is not super exciting or thrilling. Because our characters also don't really learn anything, especially not Legoshi. The stuff that worked in season 1 and 2 is still in here somewhere, but doesn't really fit together as it did before. It also doesn't figure into the solving the main issue or resolving the main plot lines. Legoshi, Haru, Louis, the drama club, all feels too separated. And then you get a way too much irrelevant bullshit thrown into that mix as well. That makes this whole season feel like an unfocused mess by the end. And it's a real shame. And I'm done venting now. I'm sorry. I just loved season 1 and 2 so much.
Everything you said is so valid, though. Like, I couldn't agree more. Also, I want to throw a complaint at Netflix themselves for them putting in the app on the preview a picture of Melon without his mask on before I had gotten to that part of the story. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on with that? So thanks for kind of spoiling that for me.
Yeah, they are sometimes really bad with that.
Like, what is your guys' problems? Like, do something from an earlier episode so people who aren't current can be like, they have.
They probably hit the pick randomly button that is also on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, but like it's so dumb. Like, I saw that there, and I just had this big question mark. And then when they show him later on coming in with the mask on, and then when the mask comes off, I was like, oh, that's what that. What? Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Just in general, just how this show was handled, how it was, the setup was good, but how it then progressed and so on. I just loved season 1 and 2 so much, and there were parts in this final season that I really liked a lot individually, but ultimately it didn't work for me, and I got more and more annoyed with it. This is kind of like the problem with this is what I feared would happen to Fire Force, right? Where you have a really strong start and then it fucks up the ending, and that stays with you. That didn't happen to Fire Force, thankfully, because that found its footing again and then actually gave us a satisfying finale. And I was like, oh my God, thank God, this is how it's supposed to be, because then you are maybe left with a shaky thing in the middle. Same for My Hero Academia, season 4 and 5, two parts, right? But then it found its footing again, which you didn't catch, John, because you dropped out. But I can confirm that it found its footing again, and then it leaves you with this really satisfying, cathartic ending. And that's what stays with you. That's like, okay, maybe there were some parts in the middle of the show that I didn't like, but by the end, it got good again, and it gave me a finale I was happy with. That I got that with Fire Force, I got that with My Hero Academia. With Beastars, I got the fucking Game of Thrones ending. And it was like, why? Why are you doing this to me? Show I loved for 2 seasons unconditionally. That's so mean. Yeah. And it didn't have to be this way. There were pretty evident ways out of this, but apparently they didn't figure it out, and that's just a bummer. That's just a bummer. Anyway, I mean, John, you already have told me you feel kind of the same, I guess. Yeah,
you kind of encapsulated it pretty well. Like, there was just... This season would probably need an entire rewrite to save it, which is unfortunate. But, I mean... At least
a couple more episodes.
Yeah, at least a couple more episodes, or rewrites in parts, but at least the production was still solid all throughout. So, like,
okay, let's end with that, with a positive.
Yes,
because that show looked still fucking amazing. Like the color work.
Orange is still on the top of their game.
Orange. I mean, we saw that with already once this season with Trigon, but. This, of course, like, the show looks fantastic. The few couple of action scenes that are in there, of course, are super fluid, but also the character animations. These animals are coming to life, and the backgrounds are so beautiful in this. There's so much rich color work in this, and it's such a goddamn pretty show. The soundtrack is fantastic. It's very somber at times, it's very dramatic in moments, sets this real nice jazzy tone to it and everything, like it did in the first 2 seasons. All of this is still fantastic. We have some nice 2D animated moments even in there. We have the very first cool OP. The second one is kind of lame because it's mostly clip show. But the first one is really cool with some paper craft and model work in there. Really nice.
I mean, at least the song in the last opening sequence is good. Not so much the sequence itself.
No. But yes, the song is good. So, again, there's so much good stuff in Beastars, but it didn't come together this season. Like... Yeah. If you want to watch it, like, you can do that on Netflix, of course. I don't know if I should recommend you watch this or not. Maybe it will work for some people. Maybe they are okay with what happens in the season and can look past the dumb bullshit. Maybe for some people, the few good bits of character development and few good instances of abstract discussion of real-world themes that are recontextualized here in an interesting way will do it for you. To me, it felt like the final season of Beastars was mostly just the sum of its parts, and those parts felt very disjointed, unfocused, and messy. I wish it turned out differently, but here we are. So, it's a bummer, but it happens. Yeah. But hey, we had a lot of great shows this season. It's sad that Beastars was not one of them, but since we did, and we reviewed a lot of them, there's still one little thing we have to do. Best of the season. So yeah, man, John, this was one of our most packed seasons ever.
Yeah, it was.
We did a lot of reviews. We had some great debuts in the form of JoJo's Steel Run and Fate Strange Fake. Some awesome continuations like Jujutsu Kaisen, Frieren, and Golden Kamui. 2 satisfying finales with Fire Force and Trigun, and some really mixed bags via To Your Eternity and Beastars. This season really was a fully stacked roller coaster ride with all the ups and downs you can think of. So, What's your feeling, John? What do you want to put on the pedestal?
Man, it's tough because, like, I mean, Golden Kamuy is going to come back, so we still have its end. We have its ending coming up. Jujutsu Kaisen is coming back, I think, like soon. I think I saw a date the other day. I forget when exactly, but it is soon-ish. Frieren will without a doubt be back, even though I don't think there's been an announcement of season 3 yet. So I think those three, as enjoyable as they were, I don't think. Or Fate is also coming back. I don't think those 4 I would choose from, just because they're going to come back and we could see how they shape up and probably make a final judgment on them, says the guy who loved Golden Kamuy so much that he said twice it was his favorite.
I mean, who can blame you, right? You can really, I mean, let's be fair, you can give the best of the season award to Golden Kamuy for any of its seasons. It would be totally valid.
That's true. Trigun and Fire Force both had. I mean, Trigun's ending was neat. I still had some weird issues with it, with the knives and whatnot, and that left a weird taste in my mouth. But overall, I still think it was fine. Fire Force, though, was just what a super cool final season that wrapped up really well and left us with something to chew on that maybe we might see come back in the future.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
So honestly, I'm thinking probably Fire Force. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid choice out of all of these. But, I don't think, aside from maybe To Your Eternity or Beastars, you could pick a loser out of this lot because they were all enjoyable for their own reasons.
Yeah, even Steelball Run and Fates and Frieren, who were pretty short, But it's like, hey, if you want something short and something great, here it is. Like, there's no regret picking those technically. So, yeah, but Fire Force seems like a good choice.
So, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in a bit of a bind here because I was so goddamn sure I'd give this award to Beastars, and well, it turned out the way it did, and now I can't because it was probably my biggest disappointment this season. Of course, I also won't give it to Your Eternity, but I also didn't have the high expectations for that show that I had for Beastars.
I mean, you could give it to Beastars. I think I'd raise an eyebrow, but
yeah. And I mean, we gave it to Beastars at least once before. I don't know if we did it for the second or for the first season, but one of them definitely. Pretty sure. Wait, let me check. Is that true? Yes, we gave it to season 1 when that aired. You did. I gave it to Vinland Saga. But it's fine. It was on the thrones. It was on the throne. So that's okay. So, but yeah, that ain't gonna happen. So, what am I left with? I think Steelball Run and Fate Strange Fake leave really positive first impressions, but I think I'm gonna wait for the next batch of those before I consider them for the gold. Likewise, Frieren and Jujutsu Kaisen were awesome, each in their own right, even though they are completely different shows, but both of them already had a Best of the Season award, and we're gonna get more of that, so they'll get another chance. I love Golden Kamuy, could definitely give it to that. Honestly, every season of Golden Kamuy, like I said, I would be fine. If going back to them, I would probably give it to them. But I'm pretty sure I will give it to Golden Kamuy as a whole again when its final arc wraps up in winter, just to cement its epic legacy. It has very high chances to completely ace out the competition there. Just as a complete picture, giving it for that again because it had brought so much joy into our lives over the years. But yeah, that leaves me with the finale of Fire Force and Trigun. And man, on paper, this is an easy choice because in my opinion, I know you have your grievances. In my opinion, Trigun is the better show in pretty much every area, just in terms of, being varied, different story, the storytelling itself, character relationships, and so on. Because Fire Force, let's be honest, while it's very good, it's still a very basic shonen, even though it has some very cool and creative ideas. But I was so happy that Fire Force found its footing again and delivered a really satisfying finale. And I love Arthur. So it's super hard. I thought the creative choices in the final season were fantastic. Like visually, it was super experimental in certain parts. That was really fun to look at. Then we had the great connection to Soul Eater that didn't come out of nowhere, but I was surprised how much they committed to that by the end and just made this a Soul Eater prequel. I love that as someone who watched the old show. That just completely was geared towards me, towards my sensibilities and what I like. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So, it's really tough. But since you already gave it to Fire Force, and we'll have to have our cake and eat it too. I think I'm going to give it to Trigun again, even though that also already, for Stampede, got a Best of the Season award. Not only, but also because I already gave Fire Force a Best of the Season award last spring. Not for Season 3 specifically, but for everything that came before it and the Arthur bits in Season 3. Like the first one. Should have maybe probably held out until this season, but I lost faith there for a moment and pulled the trigger too early. I guess it happens. It would definitely have deserved it for this season, and it's going to get it from you. But hey, even if it didn't get it from you, it got its dues, and and Trigun also more than deserves it, in my opinion. Great production values, one of the few CG anime I can recommend. Amazing soundtrack. Cool characters, a really good self-contained two-core show with a satisfying story and finale. Some of the characters could definitely have used a bit more screen time, and some of the resolutions by the end were a bit shaky. But outside of that, and all the characters that get enough screen time, like Wolfwood, like Vash, like Knives, in my opinion, are kind of awesome. And I'm happy that we now have two pretty cool Trigun versions we can watch if we feel like a bit of sci-fi western is in order.
Yeah, I mean, in spite of my misgivings about certain parts of it, I do agree that the Trigun as a whole between Stampede and Stargaze is still great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, then that's my pick. And those are our picks. Fire Force, the final season, and Trigun Stargaze are our best of the season picks for this season. Mm-hmm. And with that, we've wrapped up this fully stacked review slate, and we can promise you next season is going to be a lot lighter. We're probably only going to have two anime episodes, anime review episodes, anime brain freeze proper episodes, and probably one freeze frames per second episode, because we haven't done one of those in a while. So that's probably gonna be that. Probably only 3 episodes at max next season, but I think you'll be okay with that because this season you got 5. So with a lot of reviews, one even a 3 show review, which we haven't done in a while, which holy shit. And I'm glad that our output is gonna be a bit slimmer next season, so I can catch up on some other nerd shit I was itching to get to for a while and couldn't, because I had to take notes on shows. Which I like, don't get me wrong. It was super fun, and it was really fun to vent about Beastars in this episode and just tear it a new one because of its missed opportunities. Wished I didn't have to do that, but it was still fun to really get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to point all of that out, though, especially especially in consideration of everything that came before. It was so good, and there's the makings of something good in this final season, but it just
doesn't come together.
Yeah.
It's the perfect example of a misguided attempt of creating a somewhat connected finale, especially because they tried to streamline it from the manga and took out some important character bits. Who knows? I won't find out probably unless I read the manga at some point. Maybe I would do that. But yeah, it's a poster child for missed opportunities. Can't change it. That's how it is now. That's what we have to live with. And hey, it's okay. there are gonna be a lot more cool anime on the horizon, and we will definitely talk about some of them in the future. And until then, just stay hydrated because the summer is fucking nasty, at least over here. And to get...
Yeah, full disclosure, we had to take a short break so I could let the dog out. Like this morning, it was not bad out, but outside the snow, it's like, oh my God, it's so hot in the sun. So please drink some water, everyone.
Absolutely. And if you want to treat yourself, get yourself a nice cone of ice cream and enjoy the summer. And we'll talk to you next time.
We'll see you then, folks.
And that is a wrap on the 182nd episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our podcast is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Find us where all the podcasts live, but also check out animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Please leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice if you can. Follow us on the socials or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
So long, everybody.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
Making friends is difficult.
Especially when the world is frozen over.